Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome to Returning Home. This is Natalie, your host. This week I was in the Jordan Valley. I was invited down by a small yeshuv, and they want to develop. They want a sport court. They want a community center. They want to grow. And it's a religious community, young families, beautiful. And the Jordan Valley really does need to grow. There are only like 5,000 Jews there. So I went. I set off in the morning. I packed food. I had my gun. I had a tank full of gas. And my phone was charged. And I went, and it takes me 2 hours to get there. Not bad traffic. I know the way. I have my map, and I've been there a few times. I visited the place. I spent an hour. On my way back, I got a phone call before I hit a turnoff, and I was distracted by the phone call. I shouldn't have picked it up. I should not have picked up that phone. But I was talking, and I noticed all of a sudden the road narrowed. It was a single road. There were Arab tents on my right and my left, no road signs anymore, and the road quality wasn't so good. And I said to her, I think I missed my turn. Let me get off the phone. And I stopped, and I realized, and I had passed some Arabs, like they were out like under a tree having a picnic, some couples. And I did not recognize where I was. And I've been in this area near Mevot Yerucho many times. And this area, I did not know where I was. So I did a dumb thing. I turned around, but I should have reversed because I couldn't safely do like a 3-point turn, because if I went right or left, I was off the road. And I was in a rental car, and it was low to the ground, and I risked flat tire or getting stuck because the road was just surrounded by rock. I mean, the road was kind of above the land. But I did it anyway. Okay, I did it anyway. I had my gun with me. But I'll tell you, my heart was beating hard. And I did. I turned around. I did like a 3-point turn as best I could. And I got back, and it was okay. The car was scraping a little bit and everything, but I didn't get a flat tire, and I kept going. And we need to build. We need more Jews. And if we had more Jews, and we were not only building where there's already tons of people, I wouldn't have been scared. I wouldn't have to carry a gun, and I wouldn't have had my heart in my mouth. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Israel is located in one of the most volatile areas in the world. Israel is an island of stability in a sea of war and unrest. In the midst of this turmoil, Israel stands out as a beacon of order and human progress. Each week we update you on what's happening in this, the Jewish state, a true light unto the nations. This is Jay Shapiro. Join me every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski. Today we have with us an oleh who's been here for many years. He, I believe, came 35 years ago when he was 17 and came to study and never went home. His name is Doron Klein. He is from South Africa, and he is the CEO of Telfed, which is the South African Zionist Federation of Israel. So any of you from South Africa, and I believe also Australia, probably know this organization. This guy is in charge. Excuse me, Doron, are you there?
Thank you for inviting me to the show.
Wonderful. You're going to tell us, I hope, about your aliyah way back, and then bring us up to speed on what you see today. Because you are on the front lines, really, of aliyah from South Africa.
Right. So, yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, if you can give us a snapshot of your aliyah story. I'm sure it was so different back then.
Yeah, so the first time I came to Israel was in 1983, and certainly Israel was very different then. But already I was smitten with the bug, I think, as a South African youth to come to Israel then. I was then 15 years old, and the independence that this country offered to its youth, and I was enthralled. And I came back home, back to Johannesburg, and I told my parents, as soon as I'm finished school, I'm going to Israel. And I'm sure they thought it was the whim of a 15-year-old, but that's what happened. And as soon as I finished school, I came with Bnei Akiva, spent a year at Yeshivat Har Etzion, and then I joined the army, which was also quite a step for a South African youth in those days. I was the only one from my group that year from my school to do so, and it was certainly considered an unusual step. I served in the tank corps. I was a tank driver, and certainly as a South African youth, no one really thinks of that as an option for a good Jewish boy. And but it was a fascinating service. And after my army service, I went to Bar Ilan University, my bachelor's, my master's. I met my wife, who's from Chicago, and we got married. We have 5 daughters, and when we had 5 girls, we said, oh, well, we won't have to deal with any army issues there. Little did we know that 2 of them would decide to be combat soldiers and join combat units, one in the K9 unit and one in artillery. And then we still wanted to give back to our communities, and in 2002, we returned to South Africa as the Jewish agency Shaliach. I was the head of the Shlichim and the aliyah Shaliach for all of Southern Africa. And we spent 4 years back in South Africa, giving back to the community and helping people to make aliyah. And since our return in 2006, I've been involved at Telfed and been dealing with South African and Australian aliyah, which is a very fulfilling job.
That's amazing. Okay, so you did that very well, very concisely. I want to just go back because you say you came here when you were 15 on a program, I guess, with a youth group trip, right?
Yes, it was a Bnei Akiva Hachsharat Zira youth trip, and in those days it was 2 months, which was quite something to be able to come here in the middle of the school year for 2 months.
Right, 2 months away from home. So when you came at 17 and you came as you came with a group that year also. You told me when we were speaking earlier, you were the only one, and you said it today, you're the only one from your group that stayed. Now, when you say your group, today, gap year students, a lot of them, I believe, stay. Is that what that was, like a gap year?
Yes, yeah. It was a gap year. It was called MTA, Midreshet Torah V'Avodah. We used to joke that it stood for many terrible Australians. But it was a lovely group. It was a South African group and an Australian group together. And we were 40 of us. And I was the only one who stayed on and didn't go back to South Africa and Australia to pursue their academic careers. And then it was quite unusual. You would say very unusual. Today, I'm very happy to say that it's more of a norm, and certainly in South Africa, with the current situation in South Africa, both because of reverse apartheid in South Africa, and it's more difficult for Jews to get into a lot of the faculties that they would want to. So more and more of South African youngsters are coming here on gap year programs and are staying and are studying here. So I'm very happy to see that change compared to what it was when I did that, and it was considered so unusual.
Yes, that is good news. I just hope when they come and they study, then they also get married like you did and stay. Too many people come from these very Zionist communities, and their whole life is, Israel, and then they never end up staying here. They'll come for a year, 2 years, and then they leave. As you and I were talking before, you said it's to keep what did you say? It's hypocrisy. You said it's what did you say? Something like it's to keep the movement alive outside of Israel.
Right, so there is a conflict always when youth movements send their best and brightest to Israel for the year, that they want them to come back to serve in the movement. And, say if everyone would stay in Israel, then who would run the youth movement in South Africa? So I think certainly when I came, since I was the only one, I actually felt a moral obligation to go back to South Africa. And every year I would travel back to South Africa, and I would organize the air ticket on my own account, and I would go back to South Africa to help them run the youth camps in summer. December time is summer in South Africa. And I would go back to work for the movement because I really felt kind of a guilt that I had made aliyah and I hadn't paid back my time to Bnei Akiva after they sent me on their gap year program. So even if it wasn't necessarily put out there in the lights that, you should feel guilty, I did. And I would make sure to go back for a number of years to serve the movement whenever I had a chance to. Things are changing, I think also because of the atmosphere in South Africa, towards the future of Jews in South Africa, the community that has shrunk so much. When I was growing up in South Africa, there were 120,000 Jews in South Africa. There's now less than 50,000. So people are realizing more and more that the future for their children is far better in Israel, and that outlook also is changing. I'm happy to say, and I see more and more South African youth coming here on gap year programs and deciding to stay after, which is a very positive change.
Yes, it is. It's very good to hear that. And you are an address, so when people do come here, or are people even interested in making aliyah, are you like the Nefesh B'Nefesh for South Africa and Australia?
You could compare it to us. Nefesh B'Nefesh is an aliyah organization, and they actually deal with the aliyah process. We deal with pre-aliyah, which is giving people advice to plan their aliyah, and we deal with the post-aliyah, which is once they arrive. The actual aliyah process in South Africa and Australia is dealt with by the Jewish Agency. So we work hand in glove with the Jewish Agency, and we're helping with the pre-aliyah and the post-aliyah while they actually deal with the aliyah process, the bureaucratic process itself. We also work very closely with Nefesh B'Nefesh. Whenever they have any South Africans that are making aliyah from North America, they contact us because we will help them get the documents that they need for their aliyah process. So we have excellent working relationships with all the aliyah and the klita organizations. And there's actually an organization called the Hitachdut Olim. I'm not sure if our listeners know, but there are 20 olim organizations in Israel. Just like Telfed, there's 20. And we deal with pre-aliyah and post-aliyah assistance to olim from countries from all over the world. Telfed founded this umbrella organization about 30 years ago. So it's great to know that there are organizations like Telfed for all the different countries around the world.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Telfed, just like it sounds, right? Telfed.
Correct. Yes? It's Tel from Tel Aviv and Fed from Federation. In 1948, our offices were in Tel Aviv. Today, we're in Ra'anana, understandably with the South African community here.
Yeah, so that was my next question. We only have a few minutes left, 2 minutes actually, but where do most South Africans live in Israel?
Right, so we have 25,000 South Africans in Israel. The big concentrations are Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Ra'anana, Netanya, Modi'in, and Beit Shemesh. Those are your big concentrations of South Africans.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's great. That's great to know. And I'm going to put your information on our summary. It'll be on our website. So anyone who does have questions coming from Australia or South Africa, or anybody here already, can contact Doron at Telfed and get your questions answered. I'm sure people will be very happy to know your address.
Great. We look forward to that. And I want to say kol hakavod for your wonderful program. And it's just so important to put out such a positive message of Israel and to tell our brethren in the diaspora that we're waiting for them to come home. So thank you to you for fulfilling that.
Well, I'm just one little soldier here. We're all doing this together, and it's so great when Anglos connect. I didn't know who you were, and now I know the head of Telfed. You're pretty important. That's
Natalie, you're pretty important too. That's great.
Yeah. Well, it's a small little place, and we all do find each other here, and it is like one JCC. Israel is kind of like one big JCC. I always like to say, and it's just amazing the kind of the connections you can make so quickly and so easily because We all really one big family. All right,
agree.
thank you. Stick around, everyone out there. We'll be right back after these messages.
Thank you.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Tamar? She's sassy.
She's smart.
She's funny.
But she's also a real Jewish mother.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tamar Yona. And yes, I can be all of those things. But at Israel News Talk Radio, I'm here to bring you the news stories and guests that you may not hear anywhere else. Join me live on air Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays for the most unique and bold talk radio in Israel.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Shalom, I'm Leah Aharoni. Join me on my show, News from the Torah. Each Sunday, we'll use the weekly Torah portion as a prism for understanding the news today. Listen to News from the Torah to gain clarity about the times we're living in and to understand your own spiritual path in the process. News from the Torah every Sunday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Returning Home. That was fascinating. That was great. I'm so excited when I meet new people like this who are so on the front lines of aliyah. We have with us today an old friend, Moshe Dejman, who's been on the show a few times. He was on the show with us when he was still in America, in Baltimore. Some of you may remember him. He was originally from Venezuela and is in Israel now. He's been here a few months. I think he came in August. Moshe, are you there?
I'm here.
Wonderful. Wait, how long have you been here? 2 months?
August 19th.
That's right. I remember very well. Now, I love talking to you because you predicted the mess going on now in America. You said you've seen this movie before. I remember your words. Every time we talk, you are so realistic about it and factual and really you see what's going on, and you told me what was going to happen, and it's happening.
It's true, and it's still crazy to see. I'm from Venezuela, and that happens in Venezuela. If that would have happened in any other country other than the U.S. media would be calling it a coup. It's a crazy. It never thought I'd see it. Even though it's one thing to foresee it, and one thing is to see it.
Yeah. I did not want to talk about it today. I'm going to all I'm going to say, I want to hear about you, how you've been settling in, and how your children have been adjusting to Israel and the whole crew.
Yeah, sure.
You're in Beit Shemesh. The kids are, I guess, dealing with the corona restrictions, sometimes in school, sometimes on Zoom. Yeah?
Yes. Exactly. The Zoom thing isn't really working for us because their kids don't really know the language. So it's very hard to ask them to sit through a phone call that's not in their language. So going to school has been, for the most part, at least in the last few 2 months or so, pretty stable. Some grades were closed down completely and were on Zoom. It happens to be that our kids' ages were okay to go to school, and they have. Now starting tonight again, that's gonna stop again. But they did get in a nice stretch. It was definitely hard at the beginning around Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur time, when there was a lot of closings and openings, and they would go to school for a couple of days and no more for a while, and it was very hard to do that start-stop type of business for them, especially trying to incorporate into a new system. But I think at this point they've done it, consistently for enough time, hopefully, that they'll, that they're going to be at least it isn't that kind of jerkiness going on.
Yeah, it's hard for everybody. Those of you not in Israel, for the past few months, the school year has not been a normal school year, and for the kids who've lived here their whole life, it's not such a big deal because they have friends and they know Hebrew and they know their teachers already, and it's fun. It's fun for them to be on the computer. They think it's like a big video game, okay? But someone like Moshe, a new family, can you imagine? I mean, you come to this new country, you don't speak the language, and now you're stuck at home and you're not meeting anybody. It's got to be hard. So, you're right. They were in school for a little bit, and that was probably a big help, and I'm sure things will be fine. Now that the vaccine's here, I'm sure it will be fine. I'm sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, we never had the idea in our mind that it was going to be easy. You know, that we framed it, you know, in our mind like this is definitely going to be a hard move. It's not. We're not under any presumptions that this is like walking off into the sunset at all. This is a hard move. But at the same time, you know, being conscious of the hardships that are coming, you still feel that that's the right move, and so you move forward. And so, okay, yeah, it's true. It really has been a lot of points that have been difficult, but also there have been a lot of points that have been just fantastic that we didn't even realize, you know, like didn't even really consider or think about too deeply in the time that we're looking, you know, we're transitioning. Now that we've been here for a little bit, like just the fact that, you know, my kids are learning the language, you know, a lot of little things that they're just saying and writing and in Hebrew. It's an amazing thing. I come from a background where I speak Spanish and I speak English and I'm also Hebrew a little bit, but I had that double, you know, exposure to different cultures and different languages, and that opens your mind up so much, and that's so important for me, for them to see that they have that is just an amazing thing. You make connections in your mind that you wouldn't otherwise. You have a set of experiences to compare and contrast from. It expands your mind.
Yeah. They're like little sponges when they're kids. I mean, you just sit back and they just absorb. You know, it's funny when you say, "Yeah, it's hard." I'm like, "You're in Beit Shemesh." I mean, that is. I didn't know. I was very surprised when you just told me that the classes are in Hebrew. I thought that Beit Shemesh was an English-speaking community.
In practice, meaning in terms of like, you know, when you speak to people and you get around, you can certainly get away with speaking English almost exclusively. But in terms of schools, at least the schools that we send our kids to, they're all in Hebrew.
All right. So
even the help that they're receiving are with people who don't have such strong English skill sets themselves, meaning the teachers. So they kind of have to make do.
Yeah. Our kids are like the best. Our kids are better than their own teachers in English, and it's funny. It's funny. How about your wife? Is she settling in? Is she making friends? Is it hard for her? Is it easy for her?
Yeah.
Have
so I think the last time we spoke, I mentioned that my wife was expecting, and we had a baby boy here.
Wow, amazing! You did not mention
November.
that. That is huge. That's very exciting.
Yeah,
that's very exciting. To have a baby here is the best. Right now, she can really compare.
Yeah, it's crazy just to see that my son has a passport that says he was born in Jerusalem, Israel. Is something that I still can't believe. It's really like from a different world. It's an amazing thing.
Different world, different experience for your wife, different hospitals here. We could have a whole show on the having a baby in the door. I mean, I remember begging for a pill for a pain relief. You get one. You know, you get one pill in a little cup, and I in America, I remember getting a bottle of pills. Here, one pill, and like you have to beg for it. Oh my God, they do not give pain medication here. And an
additional complication to that.
It's a good thing. What?
An additional complication to that was that about 10 days before my wife had our baby, I landed on the side of my ankle, and I ended up tearing the ligaments from the side of my ankle to my leg, and I was in a cast, and I'm still in a brace. It's been 2 months. It's still not 100% at all. For a while, I wasn't even able to walk. And so that also made things a little bit more difficult.
Right. I mean, I guess you're on crutches.
Yeah, just in a cast and like in a scooter to get around. But at the very least, what that did show me in first person is the health system over here. In America, to treat such an emergency would have easily have been $5,000 to $10,000 to go and get an X-ray, get a cast, have a specialist look at it, and the follow-up care, etc. Here, it cost me 89 shekels, which is like $30.
Right.
And then to see the specialist, also just and the system works. It's really amazing. It doesn't work in the States. It just really doesn't work.
You're right. It's different, and I'm so glad you see that and that you're telling us that, because all those people out there who want to come to Israel and are fearful and are afraid, there's so much good here. Stuff that I've been here for 15 years, I'm used to it. I'm used to just making an appointment and going to the doctor, 24 shekel each time I go to the doctor. My whole family costs, I think 40 shekel, that's like $10. I mean, it's the socialized medicine. People think socialized medicine is a bad thing. No, there's some very good things about socialized medicine. We have choices. There are 4 different, kupa cholim, 4 different, what do you call them? Businesses? Healthcare organizations. Maybe. You can choose. Moshe just told us, he broke his ankle. And what do you have Yad Sarah where you are, Moshe, to help you?
Yeah, that's another thing. A Yad Sarah is basically like a library of lendable medical equipment. And I was able to get a boot, which was necessary for my leg, and also a scooter, like where you put your knee on it and then you ride with your other foot. And both of those things would have been, the boot would have been at least $300, and that scooter, obviously, I don't even know what that would have cost, but I didn't have to pay for any of it. It just like a down payment, just so that you were going to return it, etc. And it's all like a a free loan type of thing, like a gemach. And it's amazing. Like it's been, I've seen it all firsthand. I was thrown into that category of navigating that world, not on purpose, but now that I've experienced it, it's I can certainly speak of it firsthand. I don't know what this would have been like had this happened in the United States. I probably would have had a lot of very expensive medical bills. I may have not gone because of the fear of having big medical bills. It's a big problem. It's a big problem. I don't know what I would have done in that scenario there.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad everything happened here, and I'm glad you came with a pregnant wife, because that is great to have a baby here, and it's a totally different experience. And yafeh mod, mazal tov, and I hope you get better so you can help your wife, because I'm sure she needs it. And she needs a vacation, not you. That's all I gotta say. All right, people, we'll be back after these messages. Thank you, Moshe. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
In a time where feelings have become fact, where rational thought and common sense has disappeared, one man stands above it all.
I'm Howie Sobiker, your political hitman.
Political Hitman airs every Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. North American time, 7 a.m. Israeli time, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on the Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski. Joining us today is David Brenner, who is the founder of Partners in Aliyah. I'm sure a lot of you know him and know this group. I'm very involved with it. It is a great meeting point for people from North America and everywhere who speak English to get their questions answered. It's a chat. It's a website. David, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good to talk to you
Wonderful. Again. Good. Okay, so you're a busy man, and you are really there in the thick of things. I see the chats, I see the discussions, and I want to pick your brain a little bit and ask you what you think the trend is now. Now that there is a vaccine and that things are coming to a point in America, do you think that finally we're going to see this huge swell of aliyah?
It's interesting. You've been watching this just as I have since March or April when the COVID came and everyone said there's going to be this big wave of aliyah and everyone wanted to come. And listen, you see it. People are still very interested in aliyah. I think more so than people had been previously, and I think it's because of the COVID. And I haven't heard. I don't know if I haven't heard people say, oh, now that the vaccine's here, that I don't want to do it. But what I do hear, in general, is that people are asking a lot of questions. And I think that, Natalie, a lot of this stuff, and you're familiar, we have WhatsApp groups, and there's a lot of them out there, and the groups are extraordinarily active. If I, turn off my phone and come back, at the end of the day, you'll see hundreds of messages, right? Yes. And I think what is partly going on is that a lot of people who a year or 2 years ago, aliyah wasn't even really something they were thinking about. Now, all of a sudden, they're thinking about it. So the kinds of questions that people have a lot, I think, have to do with, one, I see a lot of financial questions. People don't know how they're going to get money here, how to open a bank account, how money transfers work, how the taxes work, how can I keep my United States bank accounts open and still use them? Do I need to keep my credit cards open? I have a business in the United States. How does that work with Israeli taxes? A lot of questions around this. And the groups have been very good, and we do try to hook people up. We have some partners, CPAs, who are out there who can help people, and plus people, frankly, like me and other people who have been through it, because I've been, thank God, here 6 years, and I do run my own company, and I have an American company and an Israeli company, so I've been through it all. And the Israeli tax laws are constantly changing, so you have to be on top of it. So I think that's one big thing, and obviously people are concerned about money because they don't know. The other one, obviously, that we see, and I'm sure you've been talking to people, is people don't know where they want to live. And I think it's partly a factor of that a lot of the people coming now, they haven't really thought about aliyah. So now that all of a sudden they're thinking about it, they're like, well, whoa, like what? Where would I live in Israel? What do I think? A lot of people just simply don't know. And so there's a lot of great things going on, and you see people asking, what about this community? What about this one? This is the kind of person I am. This is what my family is. And then, of course, there's the questions about I have special situations, because people have special situations. And a lot of people are getting, I think a lot of people, there's some frustration out there because they're trying to get their applications through and they don't know what's going on. And it seems to me, although I don't want to speak out of turn, that maybe, things are busier because there's more aliyah going. So Nefesh B'Nefesh is probably much busier. The Jewish agency is probably much bigger. Much busier. And also now because of COVID, I think, maybe not everyone's coming into work every day. So people are sending their applications in, and they don't know what's going on, and they're getting nervous. And so for everyone out there who's trying to make aliyah, and I recall, Baruch Hashem, Natalie, it's been much longer for you than for me, but it takes a while once you send in that last piece of paperwork before the Jewish agency gets back to you and gives you that final approval. But I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were worried because they have it in now, and they want to make aliyah in the summer, and they're worried that they don't have enough time. I think it's fine. I think that things are generally normal, and they're processing the applications, and people are getting here.
I have a question, David.
Yeah, go
David,
ahead.
I want to ask you something. What do you think of people who want to come? All right, now just disregard Corona, Just
Yeah.
put that aside and pretend that doesn't exist right now.
Right.
People want to come. Aliyah is taking a long time. The bureaucracy is bogged down. What do you say to people if they just want to come? Shouldn't they just come and make Aliyah from inside Israel?
They could certainly do that. I don't listen. I would be hard pressed to say that there's a situation unless you just want to come next week. Which, right? Don't come next week, by the way, everyone, because they won't let you in. Because we're going into another lockdown here in Israel, and they're kind of sort of almost closing down the airport again. But people, in general, I mean, listen, if I wanted to get here, I would do that.
Yeah.
If I didn't have anything keeping me back in America, you could come here and absolutely make aliyah here.
Yeah, I gotta say, I see these groups just like you do, and the questions and the I don't even know what the nitty gritty. I mean, it's just it is ridiculous, people. It is ridiculous. Asking questions about bureaucracy, the apostille and the certification, and where do you send this and where do you send that? It's like unbelievable. It's like these people have never dealt with bureaucracy before, and that's what it is. Some of these people have never dealt. I mean, they just never dealt with the government before, and the government
could
is
be.
slow.
Well, they haven't dealt with the Israeli government.
It seems like they haven't dealt with any kind of agency. Agencies take time. Okay, they take time. So if you don't have the patience and you have nothing keeping you anywhere, you have nothing keeping you there, I say come and deal with it here.
Yeah, sure. Listen, I'm with you. Just everyone should just come, and then we won't need to have the support groups anymore because everyone should just come. God willing.
Yeah, and David, you have an excellent solution for the people looking for a place to live. Okay, now David has set up this kind of matching, families matching to kind of be your host family. You have another name for it. Okay, so tell us about that because that can get people moving along and moving. Right. So
thank God, as part of Partners in Aliyah, because we have our at party, and you can find out all this at partnersinaliyah.org. Partnersinaliyah.org. Very easy to find us. So we put up a website to get out in front of all of we have WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups and all kinds of activity. And out in front of all that is our partnersinaliyah.org website. And on that website, if you are a person who is wanting to make aliyah, and the WhatsApp groups aren't enough and the Facebook groups aren't enough, and you want to connect with an actual person and have what we call a buddy, you can go to partnersinaliyah.org and sign up for the Mentors Program. And by the way, this is also for all the people who are here in Israel. All of you here in Israel who are willing to chip in and help, you can also sign up, and you can be the other side. I have a buddy. My wife has a buddy. We talk to our mentor people, and it's just really rewarding from our side to try to give back a little bit. And
this is unofficial. It's unofficial.
Yeah, it's this is very grassroots, and we've matched I think about 60 partners. We will match men with men. We will match women with women. We look at your applications because there's a form that we ask you to fill out that asks for a lot of information, including things about you and your family and how the size and maybe your religious orientation and the kinds of things. Are you looking to live in a big place or a small place? And then we match you up, and God willing, that little program helps. And it gives you, another person. And if you're like me, and I think Natalie, you're the same way, for those of us who actually don't have family here, for those of us who maybe don't have a lot of friends here already, I think the Mentors Program is a great way to get involved. And for those of you who are already here, and you just want to give back, take a mentor. It doesn't take really much time. It's a phone call and then some emails, and you help a person out and try to direct them, because they're looking for jobs, they're looking for this, they're looking for that. And a lot of people now, you see, mostly they're just looking for you can do it, right? You can do it, you can just persevere, and you can make it. And I don't know, now, do you agree with me that at the end of the day, and you look back on it, it's actually not that hard. It's actually not,
Living here is not that hard. It's all you put one foot in front of the other. That's all it is.
Yeah, you keep your eye on the goal, and just on a personal note, my goal in the whole aliyah process, me personally, was getting me out of the way. And for those of you who have kids out there, if you're sitting in America or in Canada or in the UK, and you've got kids, especially little kids, and by the way, one of the hot button issues is the people with kids coming in high school, and that's a whole nother show for you. And I brought a boy who was 13, and it works. Thank God, but it's not so simple. But if you've got kids, especially little ones, I always look at the kids and say, what am I giving to my kids? And the greatest thing about aliyah, you may agree, Natalie, is you watch your kids, right? And you see how they're growing up and the values they have. Amazing. But different ballgame, right?
It's just so easy here. It's just so easy. It's like hands off. You don't have to raise your kids here. The community raises your children.
Baruch Hashem, and the kids are happy, and they end up with a whole different set of values.
That's right.
I don't know how much time we have. I think we're almost done here. But I want to say,
down to 1 minute.
Yeah.
So say
1
the
minute.
website.
I give you one story to leave you with.
No, there's no time. We're done with 30 seconds. We will have you on again.
All right. I want to come back again. Natalie, we love you. We love the show. We love what you're doing. And everyone who's out there, please take a look at partnersinaliyah.org. You can join the Mentors Program. You can get on the WhatsApp groups. And let's just all work together to make this happen. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, David. And that's it.
All right.
That's us. Thank
Shabbat
you,
shalom lekulam.
Bye-bye.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
Howdy, this is Rita from League City, Texas, now living in Israel. And though my heart may have belonged to Texas, it now belongs to Israel and all the fantastic show hosts at Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Michael Solomon from Kiryat Arba, Israel. And why do I love listening to Israel News Talk Radio? Because I love listening to the interesting interviews they do and their news reporting that most other media sources don't cover.
Hey, this is Nicoleko from Malmö, Sweden. It gets pretty cold here in Sweden, so I love cuddling up with a warm cup of tea while I listen to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Frank Morris from Tennessee. Me and my dog Buster really love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.